Randy Rhoads does not give compliments easily. That is the first thing you need to understand before a single word of this story makes complete sense. This is a man who has spent decades inside professional baseball, as a player, as an evaluator, as someone whose entire career has been built on the disciplined, unsentimental act of measuring talent without emotion. He has seen generational arms come and go. He has watched phenoms arrive with impossible expectations and dissolve quietly under the weight of them. He has sat in press boxes and broadcast booths and front office rooms and called things exactly as he saw them, not as the crowd wanted him to see them. So when Randy Rhoads looks at what Shohei Ohtani is doing on the mound in 2025 and uses the words he used, the specific, deliberate, carefully chosen words that sent the baseball world into an immediate spiral, you do not dismiss it as hype. You stop. You listen. And then you try to understand exactly what he is seeing that the rest of us might be missing. Because what Rhoads said was not simply that Ohtani is pitching well. It was not a polite acknowledgement of a good stretch of starts. What he said, and the way he said it, carried the weight of someone who has watched this game at the highest level for a very long time suddenly confronting something he was not fully prepared for. He called it the most complete pitching performance he has witnessed from a two-way player in the modern era of baseball. And then he said something that stopped every broadcast, every podcast, every baseball conversation in its tracks. He said Ohtani is not just a Cy Young candidate. He said Ohtani deserves to be the conversation. To understand why Rhoads said what he said, you have to go back to the start that triggered it. 6 innings. 0 runs. And not the kind of 0 runs that comes from luck, from weak contact finding gloves, from base runners thrown out trying to take an extra base, from a defense bailing out a pitcher who was one mistake away from disaster. This was 0 runs built on complete, suffocating, methodical dominance. Ohtani did not simply throw hard. He has always thrown hard, that is not news. What separated this particular outing was the precision layered on top of the velocity. His fastball was sitting at 97, touching 99. But it was not the speed that was breaking opposing hitters. It was the location. It was the sequencing. It was the fact that every single pitch, regardless of type, regardless of count, appeared to land in exactly the spot that maximized the batter's discomfort. Rhoads was watching from the booth. And about 3 innings in, he leaned toward his broadcast partner and said something that was barely picked up by the microphones. Something along the lines of, "This is different. This is not a hot start. This is a pitcher who has figured something out." By the time the 6th inning ended and Ohtani walked off the mound, the numbers told the story with brutal clarity. Leading the league in ERA. Leading the league in batting average against. 6 scoreless innings added to a season that was already beginning to look like something that would be discussed in October, not just in highlight reels, but in award conversations. Randy Rhoads had seen enough. And he was not going to stay quiet about it. Here is where the conversation gets deeper than the surface statistics. Rhoads did not praise Ohtani simply because of the ERA number. Any informed baseball analyst understands that ERA in the early portion of a season can be deceiving: small sample sizes, weak schedules, defensive support that inflates or deflates what a pitcher deserves. Rhoads knows this better than most. What he identified in Ohtani was something structural. Something that lives underneath the numbers and explains why the numbers are what they are. The first thing he pointed to was pitch tunneling. For those unfamiliar with the concept, pitch tunneling is the ability to make 2 or more completely different pitches appear identical to a batter until it is physically too late to adjust. The fastball and the splitter, for example, leave the hand on the same trajectory, travel through the same tunnel in front of the plate, and then, at the last possible fraction of a second, behave in completely different ways. The fastball rises or holds its line. The splitter falls off the table. The batter's brain has already committed. The swing has already begun. And there is nothing left to do but watch the pitch end up somewhere the bat is not. Rhoads noted that Ohtani's pitch tunneling in this 6-inning start was operating at a level he has rarely observed, even from pitchers who are exclusively pitchers. Players who spend every single day, every single training session, every single ounce of their professional energy focused on the craft of pitching alone. Ohtani was matching them. In some moments, surpassing them. The second element Rhoads highlighted was something more subtle and arguably more impressive: mid-game adjustment. By the third time through the order, the moment where most starting pitchers begin to show vulnerability, where familiarity breeds contact, Ohtani had already evolved. He had identified which pitches were getting the most uncomfortable reactions from each batter and had quietly recalibrated his approach. Pitches that worked in the first inning were abandoned. New sequences were introduced. The game plan that started the night was not the game plan that finished it. Rhoads called this the sign of a true pitching intelligence. Not just an arm. A mind. Let us be honest about what the Cy Young Award actually requires. It is not enough to be excellent for a month. It is not enough to have one historic start or one dominant stretch. The Cy Young Award is a full-season verdict, a statement by the voters that says, across every start, across every inning, across every moment when the pressure was highest and the margin for error was smallest, this pitcher was the best in his league. That standard is why Rhoads chose his words carefully. He did not say Ohtani will win the Cy Young. He said Ohtani deserves to be the conversation. And in that distinction lives a very specific and very informed argument. What Rhoads is pointing to is this: the combination of ERA leadership and batting average against leadership, simultaneously, is not a coincidence. It is not luck running hot. It is the statistical fingerprint of a pitcher who is genuinely preventing damage in multiple dimensions. Hitters are not simply making outs against Ohtani. They are making outs in ways that do not threaten to become runs. Weak contact. Strikeouts at critical moments. Ground balls that kill rallies before they begin. That is the profile of a Cy Young pitcher. And Rhoads, who has sat through enough October award announcements to understand what voters are actually looking for, is saying publicly what a lot of people inside baseball are beginning to say privately. If Ohtani sustains this, if the ERA holds, if the command holds, if the stuff holds, the Cy Young conversation in the National League will have to run directly through him. But this story is larger than one pitcher. And Rhoads knows it. Because while Ohtani is making his case on the mound, two other names are doing something that baseball has quietly begun to acknowledge as one of the most remarkable collective performances by a group of pitchers from the same country in the sport's modern history. Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Shota Imanaga. The numbers these two pitchers are producing in 2025 are not merely impressive for players adjusting to Major League Baseball from Japan. They are impressive by any standard, against any comparison, in any era of the sport. Yamamoto, whose arsenal was already spoken about with reverence before he ever threw his first pitch in an MLB regular season game, has taken another step forward in 2025. His gyroball, a pitch that has no true equivalent in the standard American pitching vocabulary, is generating a swing-and-miss rate that analysts are struggling to contextualize because there is no proper historical baseline for a pitch that moves the way his does. He is not pitching like a player learning a new league. He is pitching like a player who has already mastered it and is now operating in a second phase, one focused on refinement rather than survival. Imanaga's story is different in texture but equally extraordinary. Where Yamamoto overwhelms with movement and deception, Imanaga suffocates with location and tempo. He is one of the most difficult pitchers in baseball to time, not because he throws exceptionally hard, but because every single element of his delivery is designed to disrupt the batter's rhythm. The hesitation. The release point variation. The way his body language suggests one pitch while his arm delivers another. Rhoads addressed both of them in the same conversation where he praised Ohtani. He said something that is worth sitting with: the presence of Yamamoto and Imanaga alongside Ohtani in 2025 is not a coincidence of timing. It is the product of a pitching culture, a philosophy of preparation and craft, that has been developing for decades and is now arriving in Major League Baseball in full force. He said, "You are watching the result of a completely different relationship with pitching as a discipline. Here is what Rhoads is pointing at without always saying it directly. The pitchers who are dominating Major League Baseball from Japan in 2025 share something that goes beyond physical talent. They share a relationship with preparation that is structural, built into the way they were developed from the time they were teenagers, reinforced through every level of professional baseball in Japan, and now being exported to the biggest stage in the sport. The specificity of their bullpen work. The meticulousness of their data review before each start. The way they approach opposing lineups not as a collection of individual hitters but as a system to be studied and dismantled methodically. These are not personality traits. They are trained behaviors. They are the product of an environment that demanded this level of preparation as the baseline, not the exception. Ohtani absorbed this culture entirely. And then he added something on top of it that no environment could fully manufacture, a capacity for self-improvement that operates without a ceiling. Rhoads noted that what separates Ohtani from simply being an excellent pitcher, which he already is the fact that he is still getting better. His splitter has more depth than it did last season. His fastball command in the zone is tighter than it was in his previous pitching campaign. He is not repeating his best performance. He is exceeding it. That is the detail that makes the Cy Young conversation not just legitimate, but necessary. Randy Rhoads giving Ohtani his highest praise is significant not because Rhoads is famous. It is significant because of what it represents inside the baseball community. When evaluators of Rhoads' experience and disposition begin speaking about a player in those terms, publicly, specifically, without qualification, it signals a shift in how the broader baseball world is processing what it is watching. This is no longer the novelty narrative. This is no longer the story of the remarkable two-way player defying conventional wisdom about what a single human being can do on a baseball field. That story is finished. It has been told. It has been validated. What is being written now is different. What is being written now is the story of a pitcher, a genuine, complete, dangerous starting pitcher, making a case for the most prestigious individual award his position can receive. And doing it in the same season where he is also one of the most feared hitters in his lineup. Rhoads said it plainly, in 40 years of watching this game at the highest level, he has never been asked to evaluate a player who forced him to completely rewrite the categories he uses to think about baseball. Ohtani forces that rewrite every single time he takes the mound. 6 scoreless innings. ERA leading the league. Batting average against leading the league. The Cy Young conversation is open. And Randy Rhoads just walked through the door first.